So he looks like he's opting for moping. That looks like a pretty reasonable play. These tiles, right, they might be one tile off from a lot of different bingos ending in ing, but it's pretty hard to just keep on grinding that route. It's usually better, I think, to just make the play that scores points and move on.
I would have preferred to play Pingo in that situation, Pingo, just to hold on to an M. It does score a little bit worse, but I'm never crazy just the letter I. You don't want to hold more vowels and consonants. I've said that numerous times here, but it looks like it's going to work out just fine for Jason in this case. He didn't pick up too many vowels, and he's got some scoring tiles.
It looks like she's going to play Topo, creating another hook. I actually probably, I understand the logic here. So even though Opa would have given her a better leave by having a consonant to 3 vowels, this is a lot more defensive because it's much harder for Jason to make a play above op from the 2 words that were just played. Whereas with Opa, he could have made a word that ends with a letter like H that makes hop. And so that would be really easy, but there's no 3-letter words that end in TO. So this is a lot more defensive play.
I get the desire for defense there, but I certainly would have played a top if that's what I was going for. That undoubled my A's. I would prefer to hold AEO than AAE if I have the choice, and it scores 2 extra points. So perhaps that was a miss by Lisa. Jason's able to come back quickly with Yao. He plays off the 3 worst tiles on his rack and scores 23 points in the process. So pretty standard play there by Jason, holding on to some decent stuff, though it looks like he's not going to be able to bingo, at least not next turn.
Yeah, I misread his rack. I thought that was a Q at first, not a C. So I apologize if I said anything there implying Q. I just misread what he had before. So, but yeah, I agree. That looks like a very solid play for him. And you're starting to see something that you don't see often in expert games. You see more often in games in lower divisions and tournaments, this sort of staircase game making a lot of overlaps. Staircasing scores a bunch if you're not going to bingo. The issue is a lot of the top players bingo right away, and it makes it hard to kind of have this sort of staircase setup that starts out. So Lisa looks like she's not going to continue with that trend, and she'll play movie. At least that's what she's looking at right now. Matt, what are your thoughts on movie?
My preferred play here is probably VIGA. Through the G and moping, backhooking topo to make topoi, TOPOI. I think that's a solid spot, and it does look like Lisa has now seen that play as well. You're going to keep things closed and tight here. The only bad thing that might happen is Jason now has a very easy line to play 7-letter bingos down in the J column, backhooking that A. But if Jason does that, then he opens a triple word square for Lisa, so she's not super worried about that opportunity. I think that's a better play than movie for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing to realize is the lane she was blocking off of on from topo and moping is almost as good as the A lane she's creating now without, right, but that lane didn't have the counterplay opportunities for her that this lane would if Jason does get a bingo. So I think this seems like a really solid play, but it looks like she hasn't submitted yet. She might be mulling over her options. I mean, it's a weird board right now. So it's often hard to find those kind of insertion plays that we're seeing here, like movie or Viga or towage was another word like that where you play through a few letters. It's not the kind of plays you normally look for, but they can be really valuable on this kind of scrunched up board. And so
I think towage is another fantastic option here, and these are kind of 2 philosophically different ideas. Viga is the more closed, tight kind of play, whereas towage is the forget about it, I'm just going to throw this thing back open. Either one, I think, is a very defensible play to make. In this case, I would prefer Viga, but I'm a player, and from what Lisa has shown, she is too. We've seen these both. But towage is a fine thing to do, and if you're playing a board, I'd be happy to play them. I don't think Jason Keller is that player.
Yeah, so, and Jason hasn't picked up good letters with his last play, so he will need to figure out a way to kind of get rid of some of these key ones. So you're seeing Yatia as the top suggested option by Quackle. It's definitely a nice idea to get rid of all those tiles, but it does leave a dangerous S lane into the triple. So he needs to be thinking about, after a play like Viga, how likely is it for Lisa to be holding an S there? I'm actually not sure what I would infer after Viga. It's such a weird board where there aren't that many options that you can't really infer that much, especially because there were no really good S lanes at that point. So Yatia would be a really interesting potential play. He's trying Tariq right now, which is a phony. I would not have been sure of that, though, in either direction. So really good attempt there. Matt, what's jumping out to you?
Well, one thing that seems important to mention here is Viga did actually block Curation. Thank you to, I think, Benji in the chat for bringing this up. But Curation would have played down from the triple word at H1 to the ON on the board. I'm not totally sure if Jason saw that or not, but this went from to now a very difficult decision.
Yeah.
If I'm Jason, I am playing Yatia here. Seen too many different times where like people get mucked up with these 1-point tiles, and while it is aggressive and opens up a dynamicness to the board, I just don't want to get stuck with the junk. I could see Jason maybe getting aggressive and playing VAU. It's only 8 points, but ATCIR as his leave would be a pretty good leave to keep, especially if you pick up an S or an E. There's a very good chance he's going to be able to bingo if he holds something like that. So he gets to decide now, how aggressively do I want to try and bingo next turn? How much do I want to keep this board closed? And how much do I want to try and score right now? And it's a very tough decision. You could argue for many different plays in this situation.
Yeah, so it looks like now he's opting for the slightly more defensive idea than Yatia. He's thinking about Yurta instead. It keeps a worse leave, but it's a really nice idea. It's not a terrible leave by any means and doesn't really make things quite as risky. And he picks up a really nice draw with that, and we'll definitely have some bingo options next turn.
Yeah, Jason will certainly bingo next turn. Wow, he has had a couple, if he leaves, that he has pulled some fantastic racks into. And this is just another one of those. Lisa's only drawn one blank across now 2.5 games too. And it's very tough to win Division I Scrabble when you're not getting blanks.
Yeah, it's one of those things also you don't necessarily realize in the moment until like you just lost 5 games in a row. Like, why did I lose 5 games in a row? I thought I didn't play that badly. And then you realize you got like 2 blanks or something during that time. It can definitely add up quickly. So it looked like before she was considering grieve or grieved. It looks like she's putting that back down now, and she is going to play the D, it looks like. It's an interesting decision potentially to think about. Do you want to save the D for next turn, especially on this kind of board? Matt, would you go for grieved or grieve here and possibly give yourself a triple with the D next turn?
I would put down the D and take the 4 extra points.
Jason is holding some great bingo laters, and Lisa also has some potential bingos next turn, depending on what Jason plays. It looks like she is going to be able to get it down because Yurta does take that S hook, I believe. I'm not going to say definitely now.
No, Yurta is plural, I believe, so it does not take the
really?
back.
Oh, man, I'm so off today with my word knowledge. So I should just
Lisa
not
had
even
EO
say
signs
anything.
in 2 spots, and now she has EO signs in 0 spots. I would be shocked if she. Well, I wouldn't be shocked, but if I'm Lisa, I'm still trying Yurta's 100%. This is Void Challenge. And so she doesn't get penalized. She doesn't lose a turn. It just flashes red. This is actually pretty interesting that Lisa isn't even putting it down. I'm certain she sees the word EO signs. So I guess she's just very confident that it is not valid, which is impressive.
Well, I think she's also seeing enosises, which is a sick find.
That's disgusting. Wow.
A triple S bingo. It's a really hard word to see. So she doesn't even need to waste her time with these invalid words that I see. She can just go straight to the real deal. And that's why she's here and I am not. So
I would love a definition for that word if somebody in chat wants to let us know what enoses or enosises is, because I know that is not valid as 7 without the S at the end.
yeah, enosis. I think I've seen enosis before, but I would not have seen that bingo at all. Unfortunately, it does give Jason some bingos back. So Cretans could definitely come down. Oh, it looks like Jason was trying the Yurta's hook, so I don't feel quite as bad. So, because Cretans and Cistern are the two 7-letter words there, Cretans does play off of the E in enosis is on the backside. S is a word meaning the letter S. And Cistern would play either before or after. So we definitely have options there. My guess is he'd probably play Cistern to the left of enosis is, just because it puts the C on the double letter score and scores a bit more. And it doesn't open up the lane in the last column, whereas S and N both take back hooks. N takes a D and an S and a G, actually. So that would give some possibilities for the triple. And S takes a T or an S as a back hook. So I think he'll probably go for Cistern and making NE. But Matt, are you seeing other possibilities there?
No, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Cistern or Cretans in one of the two spots, and I would grab the points and put the C on that double letter, and that's about it. I don't think there's too much to say here. Maybe he's looking for a cool overlap through the A and Yurta. Maybe he's just trying to make sure he's not missing a bingo using the bottom S in enosises. But I think Cistern is very standard here.
Yeah, so he's going to get that down and take an even bigger lead. Lisa did pick up her second blank, so maybe she can score a bit or get a big bingo here to come back. But Jason right now has a commanding lead.
Lisa is probably going to spend a good amount of time on this turn. This is one of those tough racks where it kind of looks like there's a bingo. I'm seeing several pop into my head, but none of them have the right floater that she's looking for. It's very important that Jason played Cistern instead of Cretans here, because she could easily have embodied otherwise, or embedded.
Yeah, that's really good point. So she's gonna definitely be taking some time there. I guess, what scoring spots does she have if she doesn't in the end bingo? Oh,
embodied is good with an I and an E. Wow, that's fun. Because this is Void Challenge, I very strongly expect that to get at least tried here, and maybe even a surprise on Lisa's face if it comes up good. I would be very unsure of that in a tournament, but Lisa has already flexed some very solid word knowledge with noesis, and I think she even started setting down the anagram noesis. So clearly she knew that. She knows Yurta doesn't take a back S, so she's solid on her words. Maybe she'll be surprised, but I do expect her to see it at some point.
Well, she's definitely arranging her letters sort of in that way. She might just be seeing embedded right now, but she was getting close. So we will see that. And she definitely has some decent scoring options, things like Medic, Endemic off of the C and Cistern, score 30 points and can start being good dents and getting her back in the game. So she definitely could still be in it very soon, even if she doesn't find Embodied this turn. And Embodied even is a pretty risky play in its own right. It opens up a triple, and it isn't super hard. It's pretty easy to access that triple too most of the time. Jason, I believe, would even have XU, making and XI as well on that triple. So it might not be good for her in this situation, given Jason's rack, for her not even to go with embodied. So it looks like she's thinking about mid or MIB now, maybe. So
That's a fun play. It opens up a really icky triple opportunity. I mean, you're not in the second spot, but she does have a blank for a lot of extra flexibility with her tiles. So maybe she hits a triple there. Jason has drawn a J and an X, which is crazy. Jason has been just destroying Lisa this whole set by dropping down those high scoring tiles in a bunch of different spots and just like routinely getting 40, 50, 60 points with them. And it looks like he's got many opportunities to do that again here.
Yeah, this is going to actually be a somewhat tough turn for Jason, though, if she goes with mid. It's a really interesting idea. I guess I'm wondering what kinds of words could she even be hoping for with mid. So she did pick it up, so she's maybe looking at something else now. But I would understand more the idea with something like dim and hoping for embedded or embodied, though that is a lot riskier since the M takes so many more tiles directly in front of it, and it would even give Jason XU as an option. So I'm wondering if she has any specific words in mind when she plays mid there, or if it just seems like I want to open another area of the board, make my opponent have to think about blocking down at the bottom and possibly at the top. It's an interesting move that I'm sure we'll get some interesting insight from Lisa after the game.
I'm not a fan of that move at all. I think it's far too easy for Jason to drop down a 4-letter word to the right of mid, making Oma or Amma. Now, he doesn't actually have those possibilities here, but Lisa couldn't have known that in the moment. And I just think, the worst thing you can do here is let Jason block the line you've opened and score 50. And I don't think Lisa is down enough where she needs to be this desperate opening triples at this juncture of the game. So not a big fan. If I was going to go with mid, I would have played it over on the right side, I think, instead of Enosis's. I'd make a EM and SI at the bottom of Enosis's. But it is going to work out some for Lisa because Jason doesn't have a high-scoring play. I think the best he could do is box right there. And Lisa didn't really draw a good tile, so she's not going to be able to hit that triple either. So this is fun. Jason looks like he's going to hold on to J, the W, and the X. I think this is a great play. Just play Chubb and hold on to opportunities for the next 2 or 3 turns. When you've got a lead like this, the best thing you can do is just score 40 points every turn, because your opponent's probably going to have to sacrifice some points to try and keep their rack nice and organized and groomed. And if you just keep scoring 40, they're going to sacrifice points. They might get a bingo later on, but you're running so fast and you're already up so much that they're not going to catch you. So I think that's a smart idea by Jason. And then I think this is a good play by Lisa, too. She drops down to ZED behind DA, scores 48 points on a triple word. And so Jason's trying to fly away with this game, but Lisa's flying right back. And it looks like Lisa has drawn some very good stuff. So she'll be able to bingo next turn and make this interesting yet again.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting set of moves here, and we'll definitely be monitoring this mid spot, I feel like, for a while now, because now that Lisa's going to be coming back into this game and make it basically a neck and neck game, scoring will probably just be the key way for someone to win, regardless of bingos. After 2 blanks are out, a lot of S's are out, after 3 S bingos, like 3 S word bingos like Enosis is, most of the stuff left in the bag are just going to be scoring tiles. So it will definitely be something to monitor at a minimum. Jason has to be a bit worried about that spot. I mean, QI, for instance, is out. So that could just be really dangerous. And if
this
I'm
is
Jason,
fun.
I would really consider something like Wax there and just block
But
that
Jason
area.
is also an E away from Joke for like 90 points. And so Jason has all the high score stuff to go over there and score a gazillion. So I do wonder, it's a big threat. And I think most people, especially with the lead, are going to want to knock out the threat. But maybe he plays for the jug. Maybe he plays off WAX or something somewhere and tries to hit Joke down the road.
Yeah, it's really not an easy play to think about what to do here. Oh, Oka is also a possibility here. I missed that at first, but that's definitely a nice idea, although the J and the X are tough to deal with. And he's looking at his Collins knowledge right now, and I think he's laughing because he was like 95% sure that it wasn't good, but had to check just to make sure.
And now he knows well over 100 people have watched him on stream try that word. It gets in your head, man, playing on stream, especially on Scrabble Go like this, where people can see what you are trying to do. It's scary. And I think different players are going to react to it in different ways. But ultimately, man, I'm throwing down words shamelessly, trying everything because you play to win the game. You don't play to maintain your pride.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to have just the sheer gumption to know this might not be good. I might look like a total idiot on camera, but it's okay. I'm doing it left and right more than any of these players. So any player, if you want to try words, I will make sure to guess even more ridiculous phonies like Yurtas this game. So I can save face for you guys a bit. Just try to stay comfortable and play your game during the tournament if any of you are watching right now. So
Jason opts for a defensive option. He just plays Gox, and Lisa immediately playing one of her bingos available, Butist. Quackle tells us that that is the best and highest scoring bingo available for her. Very impressive again, just like throwing down the highest scoring bingo without wasting very much time at all. I am noticing they're both a little bit lower than where they'd like to be on time right now. We're about halfway through this game, and they're well under halfway on their clock.
Yeah, that's an important thing to monitor. Yesterday, we definitely saw some close games. One player had within 10 seconds left on their clock, and it would have mattered for who won the game if they went over. So that's definitely a really good point Mac made, and we'll monitor that for the rest of this game. So, and Lisa picked up pretty good letters back, so that's often a key turning point. If you bingo and don't get the right letters the next turn, it could sink your game, but Lisa's pretty close here to stuff. And so she's right back in it, only 16 points down, even though Jason has letters like the J and the K. If Lisa can get one more bingo down this game, she could snatch up that victory.
So Jason has a jar through the A in Butist. That really does this board back very closed very quickly. It holds pretty terrible stuff for him. A jar maintains KUWL, so it's a play that's scary to make. Lisa's clock is still running. We need to get that hit ASAP. So it looks like we're going to let Lisa play her next turn, maybe without a clock running, just to get some of that time back for her. I believe she was right around 44 or so when she made her play. So maybe we can give her like a minute and 30 seconds or so. Jason leaves the board very open on top. You know, he's not super concerned about blocking at this point because we're back to a neck and neck game. He was up, 16 points going into that play. So, and now he's drawn the Q and a U. So Jason all series has been crushing with these J, Q, X, Z huge plays, and he's got more of the same now. A Quail is going to be able to play on top for him if Lisa doesn't do anything about it. Of course, she doesn't know he has that, but I think she'll play up there, right? Maybe LEAF, put that F on the double letter, get the triple word, score 33, and set up her S. That all looks pretty solid.
Yeah, it's definitely just the tile gods were smiling on Jason so far this match. yeah, if you're Lisa here, it's maybe she'll do something gutsy again. I don't know. We already saw her play mid. She could do something to try to open up the right hand side of the board a bit potentially, and force Jason to think a bit rather than hope he doesn't play on the top part of the board that's kind of open right now. So we'll see. She has surprised us a bit with plays like mid. Could you see anything that she maybe could do on the right side of the board? Oh, it looks like she's playing
Yes,
Phil.
that's good. FIL. So that sets up the S very dangerously as well. I'm still more partial to LEAF here. It scores better, and it sets up the S a little bit better too. EF takes a back F. It takes a back T in addition to the back S. And so I would prefer to play Leaf on the top, score some points now, and make probably a better setup for myself. But FIL is still a very good idea to do here, trying to take your best tile and make it even more valuable than it already is.
Yeah, and so she hasn't played it yet, so she might go back to Leaf. But I guess it would be useful to think about the tile bag here, just because the E is a much better tile than the I as well. I think that could be part of her decision point too. Not only does this force Jason to think a bit, but she also just has that much better of a leave here, and so it could be a key point in the game. And she has Elision. I think it might be blocked this turn, but man, that's too bad. I don't see any other bingos for her right now, but she's really close to bingos, and she might be able to make another open play this turn that will kind of leave Jason scratching his head for a while.
So that is huge, that decision to play FIL instead of Leaf, because now Jason cashes in quick 45, and Lisa does drop spot to put it. If I'm Lisa, I'm looking at the B in Chubb and trying to figure out how I can draw bingos to go down from there, because that's the best place to score a lot of points right now. But Jason has to be thinking, okay, all I need to do is play a little 3-letter word from the N in Enosices over to that triple word square, and I'll knock out all bingos down from the B and all bingos down to EF, making EFS at the same time. So Jason can easily just make a play like NAH on his next move and deal with all of the threats at once. Lisa's going to have to do what she can to open another bingo line down 70. She needs a bingo to get back in this one at this point. There's only 9 tiles left in the bag, and Jason can block basically everything available at once. So maybe she's going to make like a 5 or 6 letter play. She has the S to make Stowe and open like a crazy triple line. Or she could make a 6-letter word maybe to the B in Butist, making a BY. Morris, what do you think about what Lisa's going to do here?
Yeah, well, it's the 9 tiles in the bag is the key thing. So I believe, so one thing that Jason needs to be thinking about here is 2 bingos will absolutely sink him. So he needs to make sure that Lisa has within 6 tiles left in the bag by the time she makes her next move after this. If I'm Lisa, with that logic, I might be thinking maybe I should play as few tiles as possible here, just so I maximize my chances to get a big bingo and start scouting out what that bingo could be. Something like buy Nately is possible in the bag, though that's not the most likely probably. But I'm not going to be playing a lot of tiles here, I think, even though Matt thinks a lot of tiles is the key. I just think you gotta sort of give yourself a few chances here and hope Jason doesn't come up with quite the right combo.
Looking at what's unseen in the bag, that's got to be what Lisa's doing here. I think she's already opened that menu up 2 or 3 times this turn. I think she's just trying to find things that she could draw, like miracle bingos. It's possible she goes through the I and Farsies, which I don't think Jason is going to block very often. And hit like some weird IEST word, pluralizing reek at the same time. It's a tough situation for her. There's not a whole lot she can do. Quackle also says potentially inlays, making EFS is an option, but that's only 45. She's down 70, and she'll be down a turn. So when you're down 25 and it's your opponent's turn, your odds are not super good.
Yeah, and so she is coming up with a really creative option here. She's giving herself another S lane to make lay into slay. And so now there are two completely separate sides of the board that Jason has to worry about. And so it'll be interesting to see how Jason reacts, although it looks like he's quickly spotting that cisterna hook. It's a really nice hook he sees there. But maybe he'll think a bit before automatically making a play. He's probably going to be looking at the tile pool, looking at what sort of options are available on each side of the board, and from there react into going at whichever side is more probable or scores enough points to outrun anything he leaves open. So it looks like he's gearing towards Anon. Really interesting idea. Keeping both the H and the J here. He has to be pretty sure of the available bingos, because if he even makes a slight mistake there, he could be holding some hefty tiles if Lisa bingo's out or something coming up. So, yeah, it would be really nice to actually see the tile bag right now, because that's really gutsy of Jason in a lot of ways. I guess he has to be thinking that F spot is the F, right? EF can put an S or a T there. That just has to be such a dangerous spot from his perspective that he doesn't even have time to really think about the full contents of the bag.
Yeah, so Lisa does have a fighting shot in this game. She can bingo through the in a non now. She can bingo in front of lay if she happens to draw a bingo that specifically has an S in the fourth spot. But she doesn't really have time to figure out what she could draw. So I would be, if I were her, I'm probably just playing NO in the bottom right corner pretty quickly. EINRS is about the best combo of letters you can keep there. And it looks like that's what she's deciding to do. She wants to leave one tile in the bag, doesn't know exactly what she has. And Jason's going to maybe have to guess which bingo line he should block. That's exactly what she does. She plays no, and we'll see what she draws. That's going to be pretty interesting.
Yes, easier as an option off of the S and slay. So actually, this is really interesting. Jason needs to be thinking about it. Easier could win the game here. And it looks like Jason isn't concerned with that spot. So he looks like he's blocking the N instead. Oh man. Does she have a bingo?
Is Easier going to do it?
That might just score enough. He might have done the math out, but Easier will make it really close at a minimum. Oh man, this is going to come down to the wire.
So Easier is relatively new to the lexicon. There used to just be Eserine, Eserine in this rack. So perhaps Jason was very confident that there was just one bingo in this set and didn't notice the second one. Perhaps he did the calculations really quick, but if I were him, I would have at least written down some numbers and done some subtraction. I don't think it's going to be enough for Lisa here. Jason's only got 1 point letters on his rack. And I think he's going to squeak this one out 3-0. Lisa gets a late bingo in each time. It's just barely not enough to survive Jason's onslaught of JQXZ bombs over and over and over.
Oh, and she went over on time too. I don't know if we'll reconsider that just because we. Yeah. So I just heard from the producer, since we actually let her clock run like a minute on after a play, we won't subtract those seconds, but Lisa still barely loses there. It was a really valiant effort, a really cool idea. And Jason, with that, gets the sweep, just like Cecilia yesterday. We've seen 2 sweeps now